primary ignition.
This is Star Wars.
Look out!
Core World News.
You may fire when ready.
From the bright center of the galaxy, I'm Greg Kondak, and you're listening to Core World News, your all-night news show providing in-depth coverage of all the latest stories from every sector of the galaxy. Welcome to our special coverage of Star Wars Celebration 2023. And now your hosts, Ben and Adam, to discuss the show.
All right, thank you very, very much, Grex. We're all stoked to be here today because we are talking about Star Wars Celebration 2023. So many things went on.
Yeah.
It was very exciting. We've been trying to wrap up everything, so we're going to get all the high points of the celebration, all the new announcements, and what it might mean, and we're just going to chat about it like we do. We talk about Star Wars here because that is fun. So I decided to create a little front cell here, so we're going to tell you what we're going to talk about in order for a change instead of just rambling mindlessly about 27 issues, as we are wont to do.
Rampant speculation, though. Let's not.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I'm sure there will be no bouncing around at all. We won't go off on a tangent, I promise.
There's so much. There were so many interviews. There were all these releases. There were just like really thoughtful, great things going on, and obviously a super big love fest the whole time. But okay, so this is what happened as far as the highlights for us, and this is how we're going to cover them. So first of all, the era timeline has been expanded, and that is going to be punctuated by 3 new movies that have been announced. And there was also an Ahsoka trailer drop, which was amazing. A lot of announcements about Phase 3 of the High Republic, and where that's going, so that'd be great. In that vein, they talked about Acolyte, and there was also a private trailer for that, but we found out some information about that. There was also a Skeleton-Crew trailer that was leaked, so we'll have information about that, what happened in that trailer and what that means for the new live-action show. And then just a little bit and bob about Lando and, I mean, all the other interviews. I love hearing from Kathleen Kennedy. Adam and I disagree about this, but I think actually there's a lot to be learned by what she says at these things. Yeah. You have to, throw some chicken bones and, read some tea leaves and things like that. But I think you can kind of
we got to excavate that meaning. You know what I mean?
I will also completely back away from my statement because I did not watch what she said. So my opinion is uninformed in this in this timeline. So
yeah,
Ben's right. I'm wrong.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I mean, I always go with that, really.
Yeah, I am just staggered by the announcements. I mean, we got 3 new movies. One by Dave Filoni, obviously. James Mangold came out first. That was incredible. Then Filoni, then sharmeenobaidchinoy came out, and she loved Miss Marvel. Can't wait to see what she does with her movie. But we should talk about these new eras that are basically here.
You know what I love? And so has that timeline book come out yet? Because I feel like
I think it's this month. Yeah. I think it's April 26th.
Yeah,
I'm
end of April this month.
So hopefully this will be in it, because there was an image that they flashed up on their massive LED screen above the panel. And so it tagged on, so it's broken down the known galaxy into eras. And I'll just run through them from earliest to latest. So the one is a new one. It's called Dawn of the Jedi. And we'll be talking about that a lot more later, because that's where James Mangold's thing's going to happen. So this is the very first Jedi, discovering the Force, right? Then you have the Old Republic, which we know mostly fleshed out by the video game. And then there's the High Republic, which we're in with this literary adventure we're on right now. And then Fall of the Jedi, which is really like prequel era. Reign of the Empire, which would be original trilogy era. Age of the Rebellion, which is actually, Reign of the Empire. Actually, that's kind of a prequel.
Reign of the Empire is probably between prequel.
Yeah, that's like Rogue One, Solo.
It's like the 18 years.
Yeah, Bad Batch.
Yeah.
Fallen Order. Yeah. So that little tweener, 20 years. And then, Age of the Rebellion, so the original trilogy era. The New Republic, which is kind of the mandoverse. Rise of the First Order, which would be the sequel trilogy. And then the New Jedi Order, which is Rey Palpatine's, Empress Rey Palpatine's reign.
For too many things, but when I heard that, I just yet let out the strangest yelp.
Yeah.
Like it was just I was freaking out when I saw that. I was like, this is I think what we've been waiting for. I think many of us thought the sequels might get to this sort of story beat, but it's mainly just the shadow of the Empire and the sort of lasting effects and things like that, and the rise of this new, even more fascistic and terrifying regime.
Right.
But no, I just seeing those words, like just seeing the text, that blew my mind. I was
I want to give a behind the scenes of where I was when I found out this news, because so Friday, my wife and I had off, and we had just moved. So we were in a big box store doing shopping, and Grant had texted stuff out because I was not thinking about the time difference between England and here. So I wasn't really thinking about it. And you had sent Grant that picture of that. We blew it up.
Right.
And literally we're in a box store, and one of the people's helping my wife.
Yeah.
And I literally went, yes. And both of them stopped talking and looked at me.
Your 8-year-old self came.
To which my wife said,
"Hey, how you doing?"
"Oh yeah, Star Wars Celebration."
Star Wars Celebration. Don't worry about
it. I will say when I told her what the news was, she was also very excited. But what was exciting about the era? Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Go for it, Grant. I was gonna say what was exciting to me is because I was so busy that morning, I wasn't Googling, so I was really reliant on just that. And I didn't know about the movie announcements, which we'll talk about in a moment. So all I had was that piece of information, and I felt like I was on cloud 9, just hearing about eras. Like I felt so excited that, like, to me, just having the clear delineation, it feels like they know what they're doing. We're telling stories. Also, identifying eras mean you're going to tell stories in those eras. And so I was very excited about that without having heard anything about new movie announcements yet.
Right? Yeah. I was also tickled pink about this. I like... We had talked about a million times about what a sequel trilogy could look like, but my favorite part of that would be having it center around Rey. She could be in a lot of different positions, like everything from Empress of the Galaxy to just wandering Jedi teacher, forming a school, whatever. But the fact that it's defined by the new Jedi Order, like they're actually going to try and rebuild the Jedi, that's a story I really, really, really want.
But perfectly plotted though, because I think like this is a very smart move, given that they'll do the Dawn of the Jedi and the new Jedi Order at the exact same time, and sort of find that ideology and find the dogma in both films, like connect them in some way as well, where Rey is almost like continuing the original Jedi teachings. Like, this could be a really fun, interesting move. Slightly worried about defining the Dawn of the Jedi, like the beginning of everything. But I think if we can see it in this sort of post-galactic Civil War sense with Rey, I think that will clarify sort of. Yeah, I think that will clarify things in terms of Jedi teachings and why it's good and why they aren't just I guess the underdogs and sort of like the storytelling that they just lost and that's their story. Like what good did they do in the galaxy, and why is being a Jedi important? You know what I mean? And I would love for that to be reestablished, because I just, just given their fall, it's all we have to deal with, and we sort of, I don't know, we sort of critique the Jedi for that in a negative way, where we're like, did you guys just get too wrapped up in the bureaucracy that everything fell apart? Like, you went to war, you led these clones. It's so strange. Like, given your sort of monks and Zen background, and it's going to be interesting to see that defined, the new Jedi Order and then the Dawn Jedi sort of. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, so much of this is just like watching Jedi take L's. When you're a kid and you learn about Jedi, you're like, they're the coolest things that ever happened. They probably, really did a lot of good. And, they did. There's, hundreds of years like before all of this that they did a lot of good. But yeah, it's tough. So I'm excited about looking into the dogma. Exactly what you said, Grant. Just thinking about what a more perfect Jedi looks like.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're gonna get. I think I'm less concerned because I think they know. Like, if you look at like they're savvy and you look at Star Wars history, the one of the biggest fan reaction moments, probably negative reaction moments, was the M word being used, right? Midichlorians, right? The second they tried to somewhat define the Force, that is a watershed moment of kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this. So I think, Grant, you're going to really be excited about what they're going to do, because my thought is it's going to be very much philosophy and religion talk.
Yes.
Discovering, like, what do we do with this power that we just suddenly tapped into? We don't know what this is. We don't know how to use it. Think about like Luke in the cave on Hoth, right? Like, that moment is not taught to him by Obi-Wan or anyone else. That's a moment where he just feels in his gut that he can use this power in a way that he hasn't used it before, right? Trying to reach for that lightsaber. I think we're getting a lot of those moments in this film and trying to figure out what it all means.
Yeah, they were calling the Mangold film, you know, they use like Ben-Hur as an analog. I think he used the term, or in the press release, the term biblical epic is in there, and you know, Dawn of the Jedi, and like, I mean, that is really hard stuff to do. But there's so many fun things to think about there, and also the way it connects with the New Jedi Order is pretty integral, because you're going to have essentially the formation of the sacred texts, and then someone that's going off Luke Skywalker's teachings and just the sacred texts as they create the New Jedi Order.
Is the character starring in the James Mangold movie literally writing, or will write, the sacred texts?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's where a lot of these came from, right?
Sacred tome.
Yeah, at least one, right? You know, I mean, I don't know, you know, what that's going to be, but really fun to think about. Already people I'm seeing online talking about, like, what does the first Jedi look like, or who would be a good casting for the first Jedi? I thought that was a great question. I'm going to just pose it to you guys. What do you think?
I'd love a woman to be the first Jedi and sort of mirror the Rey arc, but just without the Emperor sort of hanging over everything. That's what I personally would love. But I would also love just exotic, you know, species of some kind. That'd be cool too.
Yeah. No, I agree. I like that. I think going with a woman makes a lot of sense. I also wonder, kind of building on that, are we going to get? I mean, the birth of the Jedi also just has to be the birth of the Sith, right?
Right.
So
exactly.
like don't you just see a Cain and Abel story also taking place in this
There's
era?
got to be a duality. There's got to be the first dyad.
Yeah.
It's almost got to be the first exploration of
there you go.
one person, but a breaking of that, and one person deciding the dark and the other person deciding the light. And sort of the opposite trajectory of Rey and Kylo drifting away more than crossing paths and sort of intermingling, you know?
I think you guys just hit the answer, but for me, the one that made the most sense in a Lucasian sense is I was thinking of like a well-fed Asian American man, as into sort of like, because it sort of sprang out of Buddhism, right? So if it was like a story of Buddha and like someone who meditates or something, like they could draw from all of that.
That would be a great
history.
tribute to all that's been, you know,
I love that.
used and taken and adapted.
Yeah. At least that was the first thing that sprung to mind. But I'm with you. Actually, I wasn't worried about it, Grant, until you said something, because I wasn't even thinking about it. This was one of those things where I was like, I really hope they don't touch that era. But in a recent art.
Well, I'm actually in that same line of thinking as well. I worry about. I almost like the hanging mystery of how did the Jedi begin? You know, like who knows? Like they're just this ancient order, this ancient religion. It's more interesting as an ancient religion, you know, clouded in mystery, than it is a defined religion. And here are the main icons of that religion. And hey, let's think back to these stories and what morals they tell. Yeah, I don't know. It's like I don't know if we want to make this sort of. I don't know if we want to write the religious text on the Jedi. I don't know if we want to do that.
Yeah, I don't think
they
do.
might. I think they could avoid, because did they name check Ben-Hur? Was that the one?
Yeah, they name checked Ben-Hur. Yeah.
So like, if those who have watched Ben-Hur, it's also like it's a Christ story, quote unquote, right? And if you watch Ben-Hur, there's a lot of Jesus in that movie, which you don't really realize until you watch it. But the way that plays out is you never actually see Jesus. He's always in the background. And it is more about how a person living at that same time is kind of affected by him indirectly. So what if they maybe that's what they're kind of getting at with this Ben-Hur, is that it's just another person who has this power, who's trying to figure it out. But all the Jedi stuff is kind of happening somewhat in the background, so it's still somewhat of a mystery, but it's also, you know, experiencing the Force for the first time in that era.
That's the way.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that's how I made myself feel better about it, Adam, is because you think about, here they are, you know, it's been what, 20,000 years since then, or 10,000 years. It's been like,
I think it's 25,000 years, as I think.
Okay,
stating
right. Yeah. So 25,000 years later, they still know almost nothing. So I think at the beginning they're going to know even less than that, but it's going to be more about the fallout. And it's like, wow, people have the Force now. And like, you know, some people will be like, well, now we're terrified. And Other people are like, we need to use this for good, and people are like, we should kill all the people that have this because like they're just going to use it for ill will, and what it means to the galaxy and sort of the formation of the theories. I don't know. It's going to be a tough story to tell. It's going to have to be super nuanced and really interesting, and yeah, it's going to be wild.
Yeah.
I mean, this might be, but it's also Star Wars, right? There might be lots of wars, and the people who are using the Force might already be employed in these wars, sort of like Game of Thrones. Like, you might get lots of like I'm thinking about Melisandre. I'm thinking about characters who use like the fire in Game of Thrones. Yeah. It just makes me think, like, are they just going to be sprinkled into this kind of larger conflict, and in that we see the growth of the Jedi, or we see the foundation of the Jedi? So like there might already be people, mystics. Obviously, if you're reading the High Republic comics, you know about the convocation of the Force. You know about just like there's so many sects of Force users all over the galaxy, and I would just say like mystical characters all throughout the galaxy that I wonder if like the war and the people that they employ during the war are already using the Force in some fascinating way.
Yeah, this made me think about I think it was the Art of Rise. For some reason, they had a picture of the first lightsaber. Did you see that, Grant? You had that book,
I
right?
remember reading something way back in the day about like a wood lightsaber. Or it could have been like a Star Wars Insider article, or like it was a comic or something, and it was like a wood lightsaber. I think it was on like a snowy world, like a snow planet.
Yeah, this had like a close up of it, and all it was a like piece of wood with a kyber crystal strapped to it with like a leather thong. And it's like, and you ignited it just by using the Force. Like there was no machinations in it at all. You lit your lightsaber by activating the kyber crystal with the Force.
That makes perfect sense to me. It's like, instead of the on switch, you're almost like channeling your energy, imbuing it with the Force, and it sort of activates. And seeing the tech in the lightsaber hilt sort of like activate would be so neat.
Yeah. I mean, this looked like there was no tech. It was just like a structure and a crystal, and like you formed the blade with your Force power.
That's very cool.
Yeah, which would be kind of wild. So, I mean, I don't even know if we'll see that. That could have happened 500 years after the dawn of the Force.
Well, I don't know. See, this is also, we're talking about the birth of the Force. Are we also talking about the advent of the lightsaber? Like, what are we talking about here? Could this also be a swordsman of some kind who's like forging the first lightsaber?
Yeah.
Like, is that, and why do you forge a lightsaber? Why have this lethal side to your, I guess your abilities as a Force user? To me, that means like maybe there's always going to be a threat of a dark side user who will just like Force crush people around you, and you're going to have to deal with them, and this is the best way.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, there's got to be a scene where they encounter a kyber crystal, right? And it's talking to them, and they're feeling it, and maybe it's this way of just them. I mean, you could tell the story of just having this unbelievable, not to make a pun, but Force that you can't control, and being able to center it or channel it through this crystal, right? Like there could be a scene of that's why you carry this weapon, so that you yourself are not a weapon.
Yeah, I mean, I know we got like crystal caverns and things like that in the films already, but I do wonder if we'll get a sort of kyber location that is new and different, like we've never seen before. The ultimate like heart of the kyber, like the star heart from Green Lantern or something, you know what I mean? Like something just truly magnificent in sort of its display and its magnitude in the story.
Yeah, I mean, and there's some low hanging fruit there. Like Ilum exists. It could be a thing, but it's like 25,000 years out. I bet I want to see nothing I've ever.
Now
seen.
that you say that, I almost think I think in the back of my head, I always thought Ilum was where the Jedi began, essentially.
Yeah.
Like Snow World, you're talking about that wood saber. Like I think I had seen imagery.
Right. What was the ancient before Coruscant? There was like the first Jedi temple, right?
Oh yeah. That planet Tython, I believe.
Tython. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Wow,
So,
I had to really dig for that.
I was like Tibanna. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tython. Yeah, I guess that's canon. That is like the first planet.
Yeah, because I think Tython is where that the Mandalorian and Grogu went.
Yeah, it is. It's where he
to Force communicate.
That's right.
So I think that, yeah, so that's definitely canon, but I don't know if they're going to use that as in this show. I mean, but yeah, it's this far out, they can tell whatever stories they want. They got all the time in the world to create new characters and dramas and conflicts and yeah.
But I mean, we're kind of drifting in between our first two topics of era timeline and new movies. But I just want to drift a little more and say, like, if they are now bringing the mandoverse to the big screen, there's more reason to interconnect this stuff, right? So I would not be surprised that they are really going all in on the interconnected galaxy, which I'm great with. But I'd be surprised if we don't see an early version of that temple, right, in this era, in the Dawn of the Jedi.
Yes. Right. Oh, you're talking about like it already popped up in Mandoverse, but yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I believe Ahsoka goes to some pretty ancient places. Once we get to that topic, we can talk about.
Yeah. Well, there's a third movie we haven't talked about, right? So Dave Filoni. So yeah, Dave Filoni has the third movie, and it will interconnect all of the sort of Ahsoka skeleton crew. Book of Boba Fett was mentioned. I don't think Skeleton Crew was mentioned,
Mando.
actually, but Book of Boba Fett and Mando were all mentioned in it.
The three were mentioned: Ahsoka, Mando, Book of Boba Fett. But there was like a trailing and others, right? So I think it's just the other Mandoverse shows. And if there's ever a Rangers of the New Republic spin-off that actually happens,
which I think very much is in play. Actually, again, I'm going to keep talking about the Kathy stuff because that's I watched all the Kathy stuff, but she said. She was asked point blank, is Rogue Squadron dead? And she was like, absolutely not. But we're not sure if we're going to use those concepts in a future feature or if we're going to use them in a show.
There you go. Yeah, it's. I have a feeling. I mean, not to get into speculation about not stuff that happened at Celebration, but the end of season 2 of Mando, we got that. Oh, by the way, here's another series coming in December, Book of Boba Fett. Surprise. I wonder if it's going to be like, and here's another series that hasn't been announced. Surprise, it's coming. Because there's some room in the slate that I've noticed with some of the announcements of timelines, right? With shows coming out in the next few years.
I listened to the same Kathy interview, Ben, and I believe she said like no project is really decommissioned. We just keep them in development, but they're just sectioned off, and we keep going in the development process. And at some point, we might. We might continue it as a movie, as a series. I think she even talked about it being flexible, like Rogue Squadron almost lives as a series now. Or maybe it's an article I read elsewhere on Hollywood Reporter Variety, but it's like, if that moves to a series, like that could make sense. Like it's so, and obviously Rangers of the New Republic, it's still in play. It sounds like a lot of stuff's in play.
Yeah, especially from the recent Mando episode we saw, where you see all our Ranger heroes there. This was also a new era that was put there. Was the New Republic defined as the New Republic as its own era is a fairly recent development.
Does make me wonder: is Zeb in the Rangers of the New Republic because he was in flight suit?
Yeah, I mean he is a Ranger of the New Republic.
Some
kind. Like I don't. Begs the question.
Yeah, he's fully signed up. He's part of the New Republic, it seems like. What I'll say about this announcement is I apologize for the last year and a half when we've talked about all of these series culminating in an event, and I think both of you on numerous times have brought up it being on the big screen, and I roundly every single time I will own it every single time I went, no, let's do a Disney Plus.
Makes no money though.
Or movie.
They have to do it.
No, I am so glad I'm wrong, as is usually the case when it comes to Star Wars. Like I am so excited, and good for Dave Filoni getting a directing. Big
Star Wars
screen.
is the ultimate event film. It's fitting for it to return to theaters and just kind of remain the space opera of all time. The GOAT. And if that can just continue, I think that's the main goal with Star Wars.
Yeah, and Kathy spoke to that a lot, where it's just like, these things have to matter. Like they have to have meaning, and she actually used the word eventize, which doesn't exist. Yeah. But it's an event that is that stands apart. This is actually the movie that I have the most fears about because I don't want Avengers in Star Wars, but I have two things I picked up from the interviews over this weekend kind of tell me that they're conscious of that pitfall, right? One of them, Kathy said straight up, we don't want Star Wars to be like everything else. Like, and she was saying that in the same breath as it needs to be an event and it needs to be different and this grand thing. And I think to me, and this is again me reading tea leaves, right? But that means like, no, we're clearly not Marvel, right? They are kind of the opposite of Marvel there. The other thing is that it does sort of make sense because Favreau also talked about this, and Kathleen mentioned it as well. But as time goes on, as they're telling these mandoverse stories, the New Republic stories, they start. You can't help but reach further and touch other parts of the galaxy, things like politics and, the government. And like sooner or later, you're going to bump up against these things. You can't just be this, it's not going to be just this lone wolf thing the whole time. Nefarious forces, like as you gain power, there will be other powers that will come against you, so it's sort of this organic growing of the galaxy. And that's why we're seeing Coruscant and, we're going to see Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma at some point. And, as the leader of the New Republic, and all those things. So that was like, okay, I get it now. Like that would make sense. Like sooner or later, these spheres, this Venn diagram of ideas and storytelling, is going to overlap all three of them, and it makes sense for them to do a big feature event around it.
Yeah. I'm glad you're feeling okay. I'm very so here's the thing. I'm excited, but I'm also very nervous. And the reason why is they need to thread a needle that Marvel has yet to be able to thread, which is take the stuff that's in the show and seamlessly integrate it into a movie that tells a complete story that people who haven't seen the TV shows can understand, but also completely satisfies the people who have watched every single episode of the TV series. It's really hard to do. And I will just say right now, 3 drinks into the evening, that Marvel has really floundered with that ability. Like Doctor Strange is a great example of just not doing that well at all, in my opinion. And so I'm a little worried that, like, to those who haven't watched the series, it's going to be like, I don't quite understand what's happening. And for those of us who watched every single episode of every single series, it's going to feel like there's not enough meat on this bone, right?
Yeah.
Like, but hey, I will be there with opening day, and I hope it goes well. I'm just a little apprehensive.
Yeah,
Right.
Absolutely.
I have a good feeling about it. I think that the Mandoverse is going to have to answer whatever they pose or they posit with Thrawn, and they'll have to in a sort of theatrical experience. They'll be like, okay, well, here he is. We're introducing him in Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna give you the major plot beat about Thrawn in a movie. Like, does he perish? Does he somehow again get stranded in the Outer Rim and come back in the new Jedi Order era and sort of like fight Rey, like all of our sort of sequel ideas that we've shared on this podcast numerous times, where it's like Thrawn somehow is back in some major way and sort of like the main antagonist, like across major storylines that can last films if need be. Like he's almost a mastermind character, so he's a character that can keep coming back and never lose, basically. Like he's like Palpatine, but almost like
smarter.
Yeah,
it's harder. It's interesting because Palpatine uses the Force in his sort of like mystical prophesizing, and I feel like Thrawn uses just his logic. He's just like sheer logic.
Just being his
and it's
tactical
true
ability.
It's very similar though. Like it's weirdly similar. But I want to see Thrawn look better than Palpatine in Mandoverse and in whatever they do as this film.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him more capable than Palpatine and restore some stakes, because I think we have to jettison Palpatine for a while, just given the handling of Palpatine in the sequel trilogy.
I don't think you're going to see Palpatine for a long time. Yeah. And I think you're right. I think it's interesting. I'd be kind of surprised. And again, this is a person who is constantly wrong with his predictions around Star Wars. But I'd be kind of shocked if Thrawn is ultimately dispatched at the end of the Mandoverse plotline, because if you read the old EU with Thrawn, you could see the writer's biggest regret is that they killed off Thrawn too early. And you can see like every book after that was just like the threat of Thrawn, the ghost of Thrawn, this like other person who was like literally another chiss that they got who like was supposed to be a body double for Thrawn. So like they really didn't want him to be dead.
He was smart too. Yeah.
So I
you know what I'd absolutely love, and I don't want to just like keep speculating here, but
Yeah,
I
why
would
would you?
You absolutely do.
absolutely
That's a lot.
love if Thrawn does not die at the end of this mandoverse storyline, and that he just goes back to the Outer Rim, to his region of the galaxy, the unknown regions. And then he comes back in the New Jedi Order era with the Chiss as the extragalactic threat, as a replacement of the Yuzong Vong. That would be so interesting to me.
I think that's a great call. I think you have to do something like that. I literally almost like was writing back to you that morning is like Yuzong Vong, exclamation points. Not actually thinking we're going to get Yuzong Vong because they're not going to touch that third rail. But you are going to get, I think, in this new, the new Jedi Order, you need some extra galactic threat or some other thing that's not just another Galactic Empire First Order. Like you need something else. And the Chiss seem like they're just lined up to be exactly that.
Yeah, because I mean, and we've read so many books, like Thrawn books, where they're the protagonists. But it would make them. Yeah, it would be a nice spin on that when suddenly these protagonists you've been following and you know so much about are now the antagonists that you have to fight against.
They're also a species that, in the books, use Force users in a way, right? So they are aware of it, even though they're not aware of it. So you can also bring the Force into their thing because they might start realizing, oh, these Jedi that we have to fight against, oh, we have people who use similar abilities. What if we train them? And then suddenly you have a dark side users for the Chiss, basically. There's a lot of things you can do with that.
Yeah. It'd be interesting if also they did sort of like the major plot twist of the Yuzong Vong was that they could neutralize the Force. The Force didn't affect them.
Right.
So has through tests on Ezra or whatever, has Thrawn figured that out.
It'd also be fun if we did like a conservation of Force sort of angle, like the Darth Bane novels, where it's like now the Jedi are rising in the galaxy. There's sort of a reaction, a chain reaction in the unknown regions, the outer, beyond the galaxy, where like maybe the navigators of the Chiss start to, lose their Force ability or something. Like that would be fun to bring in too, because then it's like it gives it. I just want to give the Chiss, more of a more interesting of a motivation than just like we're the bad guys. We're invading this galaxy because I lost, during the Mandoverse or something. It's like Yeah, it'd be fun if there's like some other story element, like that you can kind of understand where they're coming from. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That would be cool.
Yeah, so I guess we're all kind of in agreement that we think Thrawn will be the antagonist of this davefiloni feature film. Is that what?
Oh, yeah.
I think we all think that. It just makes sense because they teased it in this next thing we're about to talk about, which is the Ahsoka trailer.
Yeah.
Like that segue, guys? We've been doing this. I think this is episode 287, so we've done a couple of these.
Wild.
Well, we're done with new movies, and that was a lot. Like that was a lot of coverage, I think. But
that was the kind of the biggest news. Yeah. There's a lot of great other news, but that's kind of the biggest.
Let's talk about the actual trailer we got to chew on.
Yeah.
Incredible. Like Ahsoka, just from the score, the visuals, just the character reveals. I was blown away by this trailer. What'd you guys think?
Me too. Yeah, agreed. I was talking to Ben a little bit before you came on. It's coming out in August, which is technically the summer, but like that is like the end of my vacation. So I was so of two minds where I'm like, I want it to be August because I want Ahsoka. I'm so excited for this. At the same time, that just means it's the end of my vacation. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's usually my slow time. So I'll be making my Baylan cosplay outfit.
Are you as obsessed with Baylan as I am?
Yeah.
We are very excited, I think, for the characters. And obviously, we even got Ray Stevenson on stage talking about the character at day 2 of Celebration. That was fantastic. Yeah. With Lars, obviously talking about Thrawn. And they were together, which makes me think possibly in the story that they're going to be entangled in some way as well.
Yeah, I wonder who it could be. So,
Adam, I'm just passing it to you, Adam. That's my
It's going to be so cocky and so dead wrong. Okay. Anyone remember Star Trek Into Darkness, where they for like 2 years said, he's not playing Khan, he's playing John Harrison. Who's this John Harrison character? Right? And then we're like, it's Khan. We know it's Khan. Just say it's Khan. Yeah. Okay, great. It's Khan. Yeah. He's 100% Seabath. He's the clone. He's the clone of Seabath. He's the Dark Jedi insane Seabath from Heir to the Empire. 100%. I mean, they name check Heir to the Empire like 2 sentences into this trailer.
Yeah.
Like, anyway.
So for people that haven't read Heir to the Empire, do you want to explain who this character is?
Sure, I can in general. Seabath is he's a clone from during the what are they calling it now? The Fall of the Jedi era. Basically, he's a clone from that era, probably trail end of on Mount Tantus, right?
Oh,
so
yes.
we're seeing all this stuff lining up in all the series. It's hard. Like we know Filoni loves the old EU. It just feels like he's going to use it. Seabath looks a little different in the comics, but he's an older gentleman with gray hair.
Yeah.
Like he has a crazy beard in the comics and the drawings, but not so much. It just seems like you're going to use this. Thrawn knew that in order to bring back the Empire, basically to control it, he needed Dark Jedi or Sith on his side, right?
Yeah.
And so it just seems like that's what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
It may be one of those things where they try to split the difference and never actually call him that, but he's going to be working for Thrawn, right? I assume.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be hard to control a Force user, though. Like, what is the argument that's swaying this Force user to work for Thrawn? Like, that's I think the most fascinating.
Yeah.
Part of the storytelling that I'll be focused on, and I would. It just. Ray Stevenson talked about the character, alluding to it's like sort of an Arthurian knight. I think the full name of the character is Baylan Skull.
Nice.
And I think he said at one point, and that's interesting to me because I'm wondering if they're not doing Sabaoth and if they just change up the story slightly. It would be interesting maybe if it's like a Jedi of old that Thrawn's cloned. And I think Sabaoth was he a Purge era Jedi that he was cloned from? Or he was also ancient, I thought, right?
No, so
or
he
old.
was. So what's interesting is there was a book called Outbound Flight. That he was on this. Basically, he was the Jedi assigned to this extragalactic, like basically generational ship that the Jedi during Anakin and Obi-Wan's era sent out to just basically explore the
outer rim, beyond the outer rim.
Right. So we get that Thrawn finds this because of this, but we also know in the Outbound Flight novel, which again, it's been 20 years since I read it, but he interacts with Anakin when he was a Jedi. So there's also been a lot of rumblings of Hayden Christensen and Anakin showing up in Ahsoka. So if you could tell it, we also seem to know that there's going to be flashback in this. So you might get a little bit of that Outbound Flight told a little bit, right? Because you also might have an interaction with Seabaoth and Thrawn in the unknown, in the Chiss regions at some point, right? Like depending on timeline, what you're going to have. And then part of me wonders if he's a clone, he might not know who he is, right? So the name they've given him might be the name he goes with, even though he's a clone, right? So it might be the way they can kind of get around it.
That'd be great. It'd be fun to have a reveal scene where it's like, actually, your name's
Seabaoth
or J something. His name starts with a J. I forget.
It's well, so Joris with one U is the original, and Joris with two U's is the clone, which is also how you get Luke Skywalker. But anyway,
there's also a woman who's wielding a lightsaber as well. The same sort of like orange, red hot orange blade.
Ivana Sakno is the.
She is just
character,
like
There's the
wrecking
actress.
house in a shot. It looks great. But again, back to like how Thrawn may be enticing these characters to do what they're doing. We do see like what looks like a duel in the world between worlds, like at the end of this, at the end of this trailer. And like, we talked about possible clone Dark Jedi. There's obviously other angles they could totally,
There's time travel. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Dave.
I think they're definitely leaning into clones throughout the entire time.
Do you want to hear
clone Jedi? They're standing in what looks like the world between worlds, and it makes me think, like, is there a way that Thrawn has convinced this Jedi that like if they utilize this power they can basically change history or stop the fall of the Jedi? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is there something there that it's like, oh, now their motivation makes sense, and like there's a righteous motivation for the villains or something like that? That would be interesting. Like, I'm just wondering how he's controlling these clones, because I have to imagine Force users wouldn't be susceptible to sort of like the chips of the programming, like sort of systems that worked on the clones. Like, it's got to be hard to control Force users. It's just my own, thoughts on it.
Yeah, No, I think that's really interesting. I gotta be honest, I was half paying attention because my mind was going tinfoil hat about who the female female force user is. Yeah. All right, you know what? 3 drinks in, I'm going crazy. It's Mara Jade because with a different hair dye job, like she is such an integral part to the Heir to the Empire.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Plot line, and I'm watching her. I'm like, she totally could be Damper's hand. That they just aren't going to give her red hair. And part of me is like, is this one of those things where they're actually just dyeing the hair in post? Like, is it actually red,
but they made it white?
They don't want to do it for the trailer.
Right, because we did get that red Lucasfilm text as well, which was so cool to see. I was like, nice.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll stop.
That's great.
I don't know. I can't go. I just have to go. This is another Dark Jedi.
Yeah, I think that's probably.
And again, like, let's just throw out a couple more ideas besides clones, if they're not clones, because I think clearly they're probably clones. They've been
but there are definitely other
program forever.
Yeah,
but
could be
would be interesting if they're almost mirror characters to Ahsoka, where they're Jedi who served in the Clone Wars and sort of like, their sabers bled instead of purified. Like that's all it is. Like the difference is like the way that they operated after the Clone Wars was just they did dark deeds and to survive and all this sort of stuff, where it's like Ahsoka is obviously gained this like clarity towards like refined Jedi sight at this point, that it's like she's kind of the ultimate Jedi with the white sabers. And but that could be another angle for them. But again, it's got to be clones. It's just weird that they're rapidly aging. I think that's what Ray Stevenson. He's got to be middle aged, on the older side. And are they rapidly age, these clones? Like
I can't remember from the series, but they do come out like aged. Like I know he is, but it also could be a misdirect for me, right? Where you're right, Grant, that it is not. It's just Dark Jedi. And it'd be interesting to see Dark Jedi that aren't Inquisitors, right? Which are great and those are interesting, but to see people have fallen not in service necessarily to the Empire, but for some other reason, right? I'd be really interested to see that.
Yeah.
I mean, but they're probably clones.
I mean, like
probably, but
they're probably, and like you said, they're probably coming out of the vats.
I don't know.
Like that's where the technology needs to go, right? That's how we get Palpatine.
Right, out of the vat, fully grown.
Bodies are just coming out all shriveled. Like it's.
Yeah, so I haven't read Heir to the Empire in like 20 years, so 25 years. So
when I read Outbound Flight, I was like, oh, this connects to.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I remembered nothing. So watching this, they sort of set up 2 different sets of villains, right? They set up these Dark Jedi with I'd like to talk more about the lightsabers at some point, where there's a lot of debate. Like they're not really red; they're kind of orange, which is like significant. And then she's like, there's been whispers that Thrawn wants to be the heir to the Empire, and he's sort of set up separately from that. But so I don't know. I mean, maybe they're in separate places. Maybe this is the origin story of their meeting, and then in that, they will join up with Thrawn in the feature film or something. Yeah, we'll see. But I was just like excited to see different Jedi doing, different Dark Jedi that we've never seen before, as a force to be reckoned with in the galaxy. We don't even know if they know each other. I mean, we assume they do. Their lightsabers are like the exact same color.
Right.
They have the same color hair. It's like they look related.
Her speed and his just hulking stature got me so amped for like saber battles. I was like, oh yeah, this is why I love Star Wars. Is just epic saber fights, exchanging philosophy during the duel. Like those are literally my favorite moments in Star Wars.
Yeah, and there's plenty of lightsaber fodder in the trailer as well. There's a lot of those sort of like Grievous's bodyguard droids. What are those things called? They're
the assassin droids or whatever, like HK units or something.
They've evolved. They've evolved a little bit, but it's the same sort of idea. It's like those force pikes, and they're doing their best in getting shredded by Ahsoka, which is always fun. But looks pretty beautiful.
Yeah. I love that everything's almost like half crimson now too. Like the droids are painted half crimson. Like, is the Project Cinder stuff? Is that all that stuff basically taking place? Like, is this?
I think
is what Thrawn inherited sort of like connected to Exegol and all that stuff? Like, is the Sith Eternal stuff connected to what Thrawn is doing? Where does that connection begin, if there is a connection at all? And I got to imagine that the orders coming down the line to clone, like, do all these cloning experiments, I got to imagine that's coming from Palpatine's, contingency plan. And
right.
Palpatine, right? Like, why is Thrawn obsessed with cloning?
Well,
he must be serving a higher master, right? Like, I don't know.
Thrawn could be his own master at this point. I mean, I
think that's what it's be.
Right. As far as we know, Thrawn's motivations are to pool the resources of the galaxy to fight off extragalactic threats. Like, that's always been his thing, and I think he's always been interested in the Empire being like, oh, this is a good way to bring order to an entire galaxy. And he's always wanted it. It'd be interesting. So this definitely happens. Our timeline with the Empire is that, like, Palpatine died the first time in Return of the Jedi, right? And then there was remnants that are being cleaned up, Operation Cinder, where all the rogue elements go and try and destroy everything. And then it culminates in the Battle of Jakku, where essentially the bulk of the Empire's fleet has been destroyed. And that's only, I think that's like 6 years ABY. So only like a year after, it happens a year after Return of the Jedi. So that all happens pretty quick. So that's in the past. And then the next thing we know, we find, we pick up the Sith Eternals, Snoke, the Sith Eternal, and all that stuff 20 years after that. So 27 years or something. So, 20 years pretty much. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of room to fill in there. And I'm kind of hoping that, Thrawn maybe tried to sweep in there and pick up and control these remnants, but they were under order to follow Palpatine and create the, Sith Eternal. But it'd be interesting if Thrawn had to sort of battle those orders from Sith Eternal to sort of commandeer their ships and take that power back and become the heir. And so he's getting it from both sides, from, whatever powers that be in the new Alliance or the New Republic, and then also the Sith Eternal.
Internally, right? Like, he'll have to deal with that internal threat. And then, I mean, I would love to theorize it right now that maybe Palpatine is going to have a big deal to do with Thrawn's undoing, at the end of all this.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. Like, I wonder if we do get some Palps in the movie. Yeah. And that's the other thing is, like, I feel like when you're talking about that era, it feels like there's two sides of the Empire. There are the culty side of the Empire that's all in on Palpatine and his dark side powers, and I want to be the Sith Eternal in this. And then there's all the rest, all the other generals who are just military people who are probably more likely to side with Thrawn, right? That are just gonna be like, no, I don't care about this dark side stuff. I just believe in order. Right. And so it'll be interesting to see.
Oh, I love that.
The Rey Sloanes.
There's the religious commentary we need in Star Wars, is like, who is this mystic communal side of the remnant empire, and then the sort of like tacticians and the officers and the military men, all that stuff. Yeah.
I guess the other thing to mention about the trailer that we haven't is just like all the rebels people show up. Yeah. Right? Everyone's rebels, like, pretty much. Yeah. We get them all in one moment or another, other than Zeb, but we just got Zeb last week, so it makes sense why they left him out of the trailer.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess we haven't even talked about that, right?
No.
So, the Harrison Dula, lots of Hera, which is great to see her in live action, and lots of Sabine Wren as well with long hair. I think we do see one frame with her hair cut again, but yeah, it's sort of like when obviously it's like probably early season where we see it, and we also see some of those like mirror images from Rebels. From the sort of end of the last episode.
Yeah, that's the big thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, which is I think we were constantly trying to peg where Ahsoka would be on the timeline compared to Rebels, and it looks like they're standing in that very structure and the ship's flying off. It almost looks like the end shot of Rebels. Yeah. If you look at how the ships are flying.
Yeah, I don't know if we've covered it in this podcast, but there was a timeline reveal for Ahsoka, and it'll be 8 episodes, and the first 4 episodes will be before that moment. In Lothal, where they go to join, and then 4 episodes after. So we'll see a little bit of that lead up to where, what brought them there. And then there might be I think there's a not insignificant time jump in the middle there.
Yeah, I'm guessing those 4. I mean, because we do see a lot of rebellion era people, right? And then like we see rebellion
leadership
and costumes.
Yeah, New Republic.
And then no, but I think rebellion at that era, right? I
don't know. I thought we mean the hologram with Mon Mothma and
Yeah, but
of
we
the
actually see
Duran.
some like rebel soldiers. Like we see that costume from like
Oh, you're
the original
right.
trilogy. So I think
Yeah.
that's what that's going to be. And I think we're going to get a giant, well, not giant, but like a 6-year, 7-year time jump that brings you squarely in the middle of mandoverse era. So I think
Yeah.
you're going to get like a
Yeah, that's what I feel is missing with Ahsoka too. Is sort of like she's sort of this wayward swords, Jedi, sort of neutral Jedi who's just traveling, and it's like, where was she coming from, and where is she going? Like, I think we just need a tiny bit more information just about what her motivations are right now in the timeline.
Yeah. I mean, she seems to just be like, that's what's fascinating when she was first like ejected from the Jedi Order. Actually, she quit, right?
right. Yep. Yeah.
She
You
just-
can't fire me. I quit.
Right. And so she like just sort of walked through Coruscant and immediately got wrapped up in some personal entanglement, and she tries to help. And and then she, is like has to move on, and then she finds another family, and we know from the Ahsoka novel, and she tries to help them. And while remaining incognito, and like gets pushed into another conflict and just tries to help and like the people she's with, and it's cool. That's the wandering swordswoman story. I think
She also seems to be like going with the wind now,
Yes.
though, instead of like finding safe harbor and protecting people and things like that. It's like she's really just following the Force and
that
on the trail of Thrawn. I mean, like when we get the brief glimpse of her in Mando, and then I guess we get Book of Boba Fett too, but it's like she seems to be hot on the trail of Thrawn. Like that seems to be the story so far with her.
So here's a wild thought, because I was also, while we were talking about kind of like who is Ahsoka and this wandering swordswoman story plot, we do know that she becomes well connected with Luke at some point, right? Because when we see her in the Book of Boba Fett, it's not like she and Luke seem like old friends or old colleagues, or at least they clearly know each other quite well. We know we can de-age our original trilogy characters quite well at this point. We're going to get more Luke, at least. Do you think part of what we're going to get in this movie, to jump back to the movie, because I think the movie is going to be really closely connected to the Ahsoka stuff. Do you think we get original trilogy and Han on one more
adventure
in this movie?
I mean, that would make it an event. That would make it an event, right?
Yeah, right. That could only be told on the big screen.
Yeah, that's. I mean,
I was thinking Luke. I was thinking Luke would definitely be in the film.
Yeah, I would think so.
like the other.
Because that makes sense. Like there's that huge gap we don't know about them. They're all there. All this like legend stuff with Heir to the Empire, happened. But it's like it would make sense that like there was this other threat too that wasn't really integral to the Skywalker saga plot, but like the gang got together to help fight. And that you could do that. That's a great call out of them. I think that's a great way to make that an event.
Yeah. And not that you center the movie around them, because I don't want to steal from the Mandoverse, but at least like a good, 15-minute scene in the middle where it's just like, we need help. Who do we call? And suddenly Millennium Falcon comes swooping in with Luke and Leia and Han, and Chewie. You wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, yeah. I don't know about that.
Oh,
I mean,
I do.
No, because it sets an awful precedent, because it's like the sequels kind of never give you the Trinity. Like they never give you that moment.
Right.
And it's like, you're really going to drop that on us now? And then like the sequels kind of just, they're so broken. Like Luke is so defeated. I wouldn't be surprised if like Grogu gets abducted and is used to make like Snoke, and like Luke is like, this galaxy's awful. Like Luke is like Luke needs to like, he's shattered, and like if they have a heroic moment with the old band, it's like, to me, it's like, no, the shattering has to begin here. We have to really start this journey of like, these are soul shattered humans by the next time we see them.
But I mean, maybe it could be the event that prompts him. He's feeling good, and then that prompts him to create the school, right? And then I don't know, and then and that's where that's ultimately where it gets shattered. Whereas the fallout with
Star Wars was created by a man who constantly went back and trying to fix, quote unquote, his art. Right. Like Star Wars has always been that. Think of the old EU. The old EU and even the new EU has been used to try to not necessarily retcon things, but to build out and connect arcs to
things
to
are literally
provide.
going up a letter grade due to like backfilling.
Yes,
which I'm
exactly.
like, oh, this is actually better now.
100%,
because
right? That's what Star
backfilled
Wars
the
does.
sequel
That's why
trilogy
Star
with all
Wars
this
is
Rise of
super
the
popular.
First Order stuff in Mandoverse.
So-
Like I am now liking these films more.
Yeah,
like
agreed.
it does prop the current products up when you start to
Yeah.
backfill them.
And one of the biggest complaints about the sequel trilogy, which I love, but I do tend to also agree with this one complaint, or kind of not even a complaint, but kind of like that's a bummer, is that we never saw our old gang back together again.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm.
They're gonna not quote unquote fix it, but they're gonna use this opportunity to give fans that. I guarantee you, from a corporate standpoint, even from like a cynical
It's
corporate
incredible.
standpoint, you have
It
to do
would
that.
be like the ultimate Harrison Ford.
That's the
sort of
question: is whether he signed off on it
moment,
or not.
Like besides Dial of Destiny, however Dial of Destiny is received, I'm eagerly anticipating it. I think it looks incredible.
I think it looks amazing. That new trailer.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
So
I have
ready.
theories about what the Dial of Destiny might
Oh,
mean. That
interesting.
sort of stuff. I'd love an indie pod after this if you guys have time.
Quick indie.
But
We'll do
no, but just
after
if
Indie
they
comes
could
out.
do DH Han and just to capture that swag in some way. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I just watched Die Hard the other day, and like the Bruce Willis swag. Like somehow we should recreate that in 20 years. But like if you can recapture the Han Solo swag with Harrison Ford just one last time, that would just be I don't know, impeccable.
Yeah, stellar.
And he doesn't. I think Harrison Ford's biggest thing is he doesn't want to play Han Solo again. But that doesn't mean he won't sign off on someone else playing Han Solo with his head digitally attached.
Right. Yeah.
I think he knows.
Well, I mean, Lucasfilm's already like photographed him like
Yeah.
10 ways to Sunday.
Yeah.
It's like it's gonna be he's
Because-
he's definitely in hundreds and hundreds of
But I think I'm most
people's computers
Yeah,
over there.
or
right?
Alden
I think I'm
Ehrenreich
most-
too. Like I don't know, there might be a way to age him up, or I don't know what he's looking like these days.
yeah.
But yeah, there's options there. Or he could character actor and like
There are
superimpose.
He'll play right, and then they'll de-age
They'll do
Harrison
Han Solo
on top of him,
Yeah.
and then it'll be like this combined performance.
Which I
that's just-
kind of love it because he does have the body. He does have the mechanics with Harrison
Yeah,
Ford down.
he does get the
completely.
body language down.
Yeah, I will say that like the thing about Dial Destiny, I swear this actually connects, is I am super fascinated about how much of this movie is actually takes place in with G.H. Harrison Ford, because every time they show a clip, I'm like, takes place with D.H. Harrison Ford, or is it like 5 minutes? But the point is like clearly he's probably just like Harrison Ford's probably like, oh, this is great. So I'm like, I only have to act for half this movie, and like
Yeah.
just de-age me and put me on someone's younger body. He'll totally sign off on it. He's like, I'm cool.
Yeah.
Just do it.
I do think the stakes do ride with Grogu a little bit, though. Like, I feel like he's central to this cloning operation, and like if
He's
they're
the
gonna bring
MacGuffin
back
of the film.
Palpatine, they're gonna need the M's from
Mm-hmm.
Grogu, and it's gonna be brutal for everyone.
Yeah.
I'm just telling everyone to brace yourself. I really do think it's a stake mechanic for Grogu.
Yeah.
Like we all are so connected to that
I
child.
know.
at this
Yeah,
point.
so much. They better not touch a hair on his head.
Ben is like-
Yeah, I mean, and honestly,
No,
yeah,
they
I'm also
gotta-
hoping this feature film won't be the end of the Mandalorian too. It might be. I mean, because it could be 6 years before it comes
No.
out. So
I don't think so.
yeah, it could be a long time till we see this film, but still, yeah. Oh man, if they heard Grogu,
I
like,
think it
people will
depends
cancel
on-
Star Wars.
They need to find a way to time jump Grogu into the new Jedi Order era, which they will do. Which is like we have created the world between worlds, and we've time jumped a character
Oh
before.
my gosh, so he'll still be a baby in like in the new Jedi Order.
I think he still would be mathematically anyway. Wouldn't he just be like an 8-year-old
Yeah,
on that
he'd
with
be
that
like,
math, or
yeah,
maybe a
he's, you know,
10-year-old?
Yeah, he might be like a 10-year-old, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, he would be like what 80
Yeah.
then. So
So that makes him
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
I don't know how the
100
math
years
works.
old is
No,
like
he'd be 10.
years
He'd be 10.
old. Is,
9, 8, 9,
probably
900
like
years.
7.
yeah,
or-
they age differently.
Yeah,
right?
exactly,
So
7 or 8.
It might happen all at once. You
Yeah,
never know.
different.
He's
different
already
age curve.
chattering,
Yeah.
so which is so adorable.
very true.
Honestly, his little noises.
Well, actually, if 52 is 2 years old,
yeah.
he's probably going to be like 3.
4, 3.5, 4.
With this,
Oh
like,
man, they kind of paid themselves in a corner, but I think Ben's solution of
Yeah.
like they age
They
differently
can-
is the
it's-
way
There's
you
not
go.
a lot of science in Star Wars, guys. Yeah.
Do whatever they want. Yeah, yeah. That's true of different species. Different species of age.
I do want to hear Rey say Grogu or something.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, what's a Grogu?
I am so. I mean, we kind of sped past it. Did we even talk about? Yeah, because we're in Ahsoka trailer. But like, I am so happy that we're getting Rey back. Like one of my favorite characters.
Oh yeah,
in
new
Star Wars
movies
and
ended
to
with
do that.
Daisy Ridley taking the stage and being like, "I'm back."
Yeah,
I know. I'm
I
back.
wasn't
Yeah.
able to see that
And
live. I saw some like people's phone footage. It was terrible. But apparently, like they played the Rey theme
know.
when she came out in like all her grandeur, and like I would have. I wanted to get a high fidelity version of that because I would have wept openly.
If I was in that
I
room,
would've
I would have
cried.
cried. I honestly know myself. I would have actually cried.
Yeah.
I am so happy.
She crushes.
totally gonna get
Can we
Jumbo.
agree that in the sequel trilogy, like she crushes
Yeah,
every
yeah.
scene
Yeah.
she's in? Like it's astounding.
100%. No matter how you feel about any individual movie or the series as a whole, like I can't imagine you saying Rey's bad.
Right.
Like Rey is so
it's-
like
yeah.
no matter what, we get Rey out of it, which is
know.
absolutely worth it. She's such a great character. She's so good. We're totally gonna get John Boyega back as Finn. Just calling
I
it
hope
now.
so,
It's gonna
man.
happen.
I don't, I don't want that movie to happen without him. Honestly, I just really, I
Yeah,
would
same.
be really super bummed.
But
if he wasn't there.
with Finn coming back, I want him to come back in a big
Yes.
way where
Yes.
we almost push maybe Poe out of the story and we do lots more. with Finn.
Poe comes in for a scene, does some whatever.
Yeah, he'll have to make an
he's gone.
appearance. But no, I want Boyega to like have a movie. You know, like there's already some great
Yeah.
art of
Well,
him as a
and-
Jedi with like a blaster and like a cape and like a
know.
a
Yeah.
green lightsaber or something. And it's like, yeah, man, yeah, I want that Finn and I want that John Boyega real bad.
I know. And he's savvy and knows what he wanted and didn't get from the original sequel trilogy, which sounds like weird to say. So he's not going to sign
Whoa,
on
let's not
unless
cross
they do
words here.
something
The sequel
meaningful.
trilogy, not the original
Yeah,
trilogy.
New Jedi Order.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Then we'll talk about the sequel trilogy.
But so wait, you guys are intelligent and know things about movies. Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. I'm hoping I'm not obliterating her name too hard there. What has she done? What do we know her from?
Miss Marvel.
Okay.
Yeah, she did episodes of Miss Marvel, which is one of the best directed of the Marvel TV series. That sounds like fate praise. It's not. I love the way that show was directed. So very excited for that. I don't know, Grant. I don't know features, but I know that she did Miss Marvel.
I don't have IMDb up in front of me right now, but I think she's actually an acclaimed filmmaker and has done other really incredible films.
She's done some
possible
documentaries
Yeah,
too.
documentaries.
Documentaries. I remember documentaries.
She may have won an
Oscar.
Oscar. Maybe, I don't know.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
But did that, also did Miss Marvel, so she's dipped her toe in, in movies or in fiction.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I loved Miss Marvel. I thought Miss Marvel was just some of the snappiest, quickest, smartest sort of
so well directed.
storytelling. Like I thought it was like just I thought the way they did texting in that show was incredible, just graphically. I loved the sort of like family dynamic in that show. And thought it was so just tight. Like I thought like everyone said exactly what they needed to say to each other to sort of like create the drama and create the stakes. And I thought that was just so economic, basically.
Economic's a great word for that show because there's I want to go back and rewatch it, and I don't normally do that with the Marvel shows, but I don't remember a time I've ever just like being like going for my phone and be like, what are we doing here? Like scenes didn't go on too long. Everything just kind of moved whip snap, like just everything moved the plot forward.
Yeah.
Felt like
And
in that show.
the lead actress, I think, just
crushed, so charming,
so crushed it. And I think like that movie, the Marvels, is
Marvels,
incredible.
I'm so excited
I think
for that. Yeah,
she's going to carry a big portion of that film just with her charisma and just her, I don't know, spunk, sassy, fun.
Yeah.
I
super
liked
fun.
Miss Marvel a lot. I thought that was fantastic. So I pulled up
Me too.
Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy's IMDb. She won 2 Oscars, both for documentaries on short subject. One was for A Girl in the River, The Prince of Forgiveness, and Saving Face. And then she's got like 29. There's like 9 winners, different from international film festivals for Reinventing the Taliban. Like she's a lot of documentaries in there.
Yeah.
And then she has a ton of producer credits. A Life Too Short, Let Girls Dream, Freedom Fighters, Student Athlete, Doc World, Ladies First. It's cool. Women with Gloria Steinem. So I'm seeing a little bit of a pattern here. But yeah, she's great. I assumed like they tapped her because she would have the star power to bring in great actors.
And probably and also a view, right, that she wants to bring to this. And I'm all for fresh.
What's your meaning?
Fresh
Yeah, this is something that Kathleen kept drilling home on. This is just like, what is your issue? Like, what do you stand for? What is your thing? And bring that to the characters. And so she clearly has that. I think it's an interesting call as a primary doc filmmaker. To have them do that, just like, I'm just going to shoot a documentary in Star Wars. We'll just use ILM. You just cook it up, get it all made, and I'll just follow the action.
Well, I mean, being a documentary filmmaker, I'm sure she's going to find those nuggets that are interest her, and she's going to have something to say. And I think that's going to be exciting with, Daisy Ridley returning and sort of using that character as for, whatever that means to use Rey Skywalker in the new trilogy or this new Jedi Order film. Like, I have to imagine that's going to be, you're going to have to take heed to the Palpatine sort of cloning stuff. There's a dark tinge to the character. Is something else going to happen there? And like, how does starting this new school, how does this basically save Rey, or how does she orchestrate this, and how does her light side sort of activate and counter all that dark side stuff that we know is going to always probably be in her story?
I mean, I would bring Boyega in as like an executive producer as well. Like, give him that credit. Let him tell his story. Let him really flex, because he's a producer right now. He's making films. He's got a strong voice and good ideas. And I think, you bring him in and you let him help tell the story. And tell his story and really flex what he can do, because I'm sure it's fantastic, and that character deserves it.
And I wonder if the documentary filmmaker is really a smart direction to go, because these movies are often made, as we've seen with like episode 7 and 9 in particular. They have to pivot a lot. Like episode 7 is all about pivots. If you watch the making of, like, they had a different thing going on. They didn't quite know how it was going to happen. Production got shut down. They had to figure it out. And documentaries are made in the edit, right? Documentaries are made from shooting a ton of films, doing a lot of interviews, and then figuring out what the through line is afterwards. So these are individuals who know how to pivot.
They call that spray and pray.
Right? As stories start. As stories start forming in front of them, right? So she might be shooting this film and seeing a really interesting plot line starting to develop that no one else recognized, right? And be able to bring it out. Or because of something happens that she's able to pivot with it, in a thoughtful way that some other filmmakers haven't.
She'll have a lot more tools in her tool belt. And, I don't want to pigeonhole her as a doc filmmaker. She's a filmmaker.
No, not at all.
Whatever she does, I'm excited to see. And it's a great choice, I think. Woof. Okay. We're still going here, about halfway through. Why don't we get into High Republic? This is one thing I'm terrified of, because my mind hasn't been in the world in a long time. We've got a bunch of High Republic comics to catch up on that run in parallel to, what was Path of Deceit? Was that the last book? No.
Path of Vengeance?
Oh my gosh. Well, Path of Deceit, and then the second book.
Path of Deceit, we definitely did.
The second book with the marriage. Convergence.
These names.
Convergence, and now we have Cataclysm that's out. Yeah, there's a lot of material.
So Cataclysm just dropped. So we haven't read that yet. That is on the docket. That'll be in the next month. We'll cover that. And then that's gonna be fantastic. So I'm already like way in the weeds on Republic. We're also gonna cover what's the comic? The Blade. The Blade. We're gonna cover the Blade on Wednesday or sometime next week, whatever we cover.
Whenever we do, next time.
So that'll be good. Yeah. But we got titles for both the adult novels and the middle reader, I believe is how they call it. Middle grade novels. Right. So Trials of the Jedi is going to be phase 3. And first we've got Eye of Darkness by George Mann, which is going to come out November of this year. So we're going to flip to phase 3 this year, which is exciting. And then we're going to get Temptation of the Force by Tessa Gratton. That's going to be summer of next year, 2024. And then we're going to get Trials of the Jedi by Charles Soule. So Charles Soule will bookend this, which is going to be fantastic. Spring 2025. So yeah, it's a long outlay there. And then middle reader, we have Escape from Valo by Daniel Jose Alder and Alyssa Wong.
Nice.
That's January of next year.
Alyssa Wong is the
Yes.
Dr. Aphra author of the comic.
Yeah, so she'll be there.
That's great.
Beware the Nameless by Zarata Cordova. It's going to be summer 2024. And A Valiant Vow by Justina Ireland, spring 2025. So big outlay of time there. I mean, we're talking 2 books in 2024. Like,
yeah, 2 of the main run.
Will that be
probably
the end of this
comics.
phase and this era of the storytelling? Because I think we are.
that'll be the end
we're
of phase
100 years in the
3.
past, I think, from the first 3 novels.
and then we'll have Acolyte, obviously, which is still technically High Republic. So.
Right, and phase 3 jumps us back to the end of phase 1, right? So that's starting in November.
Which I can't wait to see because it's a really interesting dark time.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there was like, I mean, some of these titles, I'm like, oh my God, dude. Like, it's just like they just keep taking L's so hard.
It sounds like a downer.
I feel like they're taking all the great titles, though. The titles are fantastic so far. Great titles.
They're so good. But I feel like the High Republic, because there's how much time between the end of phase 3 and the Acolyte? There's quite a bit of time, right? So I feel like you have to have them come out triumphant at the end of phase 3.
Some,
and then only to
with a giant trail of Jedi.
Should we say
and also knowing that Darth Sidious is down the down the line pretty soon.
But there was other things, and I'm sorry that I'm so vague on all of this. There's another book that's slated called Tales of Light and Life, which is like a lot of it's kind of like from a short story. But I have heard we're gonna see what happened to Buriaga in that. We're gonna
So great, we're gonna hear his triumphant
survival,
and return.
Buriaga's not in the Acolyte.
Maybe there is a there is a
Wookiee Jedi, and they are long-lived.
They sure are. And he, I know that Junis Samatoro. I think I'm butchering his last name.
He arrived with the cast.
He's gonna play that Wookiee. So Buriaga Agaburi. I don't know. I'm saying there's a chance.
Live action. We're gonna get him. I'm calling it. I'm gonna be wrong on everything I've called tonight, everyone.
I think
do
we're
not
getting multiple
lay money
Jedi
down
from the High Republic novels.
Oh yes.
Do you want to? Should we just segue into the Acolyte?
Let's put a spoiler wall up. If you want to know nothing about the Acolyte, we're about to dive just headlong.
That's a good point.
This. Yeah.
So the next 2 topics, the Acolyte and the Skeleton Crew trailer, like these are not available online. They were only on there. There were some pirated versions that I watched. Actually, they were just on Instagram, so it's not even like I had to go searching for it. It's not my fault. It's someone else's fault for putting it up. I didn't need to use the dark web or anything. However, the quality was so bad that like it did nothing. But there was a lot of not leaked, but there's a lot of like written articles about what happened. So it's probably going to be 6 months before any of this stuff actually comes out to the rest of us. So if you want to be like completely, I don't want to hear about it, I don't want to see it, here's a good point to press stop and jump off. We're going to talk about what others saw, and I kind of saw grainily and heard muddled.
Well, not great video feeds, but I mean, so I know next to nothing about the Acolyte. I did see a frame where we saw a character that we have seen before, Vernestra Rowe, is as an adult in the Acolyte. And actually, the character is being played by Leslie Headland's partner, I think, wife. I believe so.
That's
interesting. So I don't know how significant that is, but that's there. Do you have a rundown of what happened in that trailer? Because I do not.
So there's a little bit. So I just brought it up. There's not a ton. I think that had weirdly because that show's coming out. That show's coming out next year, right? I think we're getting Skeleton Crew first. So it seemed like that was the most teasery of teasers. Like we didn't get a ton. We do see Jedi temples shot. We do see a fight that is many people talked about a couple seconds of a fight that's very Matrixy in terms of that fight. We do get a lot of gold lightsabers, and we do get a group of Jedis lighting up their lightsabers in unison. So we do get weirdly for like the Acolyte side of it. I feel like we get a lot more of Jedi stuff than
Yeah.
we do of the dark side in that teaser trailer. Grant, is that pretty accurate? I know you read some summaries of the
I
Acolyte
just read what
trailer.
you sent me, so I read exactly what.
Okay, good, because that's all I just
Yeah.
kind of said.
That makes, I mean, the Matrix-y stuff makes sense to me if you've been reading the High Republic comics and reading the books, as we have. They're pretty overpowered. Like the Jedi do amazing things all the time, and so that sounds about right, and I'm here for it. And so Kathleen Kennedy once again said she was blown away by that trailer. She was just like, the scope, the scale. She's like, there's a lot of new things in it, but it's still very much Star Wars. She was just like really excited by what she saw in there.
Yeah.
And the last time she said that, it was about Andor, and she was dead on. So I'm here for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if the Acolyte's going to sort of cover the decline of the Jedi, the sort of like the sort of I guess the sort of fall, the decline into sort of being less opulent, not wearing the golden robes anymore, taking on the tan, sort of knowing that everyone's fallible, understanding the fallibility of all Force wielders, understanding that everyone's fallible at any time. It's a moment to moment choice based thing. It's not, hey, I'm a Jedi, I'm good. It's let's not celebrate that we're these holy warriors or whatever they think they were.
Like, it feels very much, I am a Jedi, therefore I'm good.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I am good, therefore I'm a Jedi, which is probably the way you should be thinking about it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Resting on the sort of laurels of being a Jedi. I'm good. I am a Jedi, obviously. I'm good. It's a moment to moment thing.
Totally. Yeah, because there is a lot of hubris in the High Republic. It just sort of like, everything's great. We do the thing. We got the great robes and all that, and there's very little questioning. I mean, there is still some questioning, but there's a lot of fooling around and making out in closets and that sort of stuff too.
Yeah, right. It's very.
I know I did see Bodies this year, and I loved that film, and I know Amanda Stenberg was in that, and so. I have high hopes that she'll be a great lead for the show and all that sort of stuff. But
it's
love
so
the cast.
cool that
the
they're
cast
doing.
Is great.
Yeah, the cast looks great. I will say, I know a lot of like leaked behind the scenes footage came out that looked not great. But like in this preview, because I was able to watch it. Watch the kind of
breaking up there.
Great looked. Oh, it looked
as you were talking about the pixelation of the video. You got pixelated.
It looked really good, is what I'm trying to say. It looked like the post production looked really good.
Okay, cool.
Okay,
like great. Yeah, I imagine it looks amazing. And just to get this many, I guess, Jedi type characters in a storyline, like jam packed. I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting territory. This is like the prequels.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for Jedi again. Like
me too.
I loved Andor so much. I watched hours of Andor panels today. But because I'm just fascinated, I could listen to Tony Gilroy read the phone book. But just fantastic stuff. But it's like, and I love the way they're doing it. They're just like, and then we see Kelleran Beck, and it's like, oh yeah, like I remember Jedi, they're great. We just, obviously Obi-Wan's my guy, and that was a great show. But we they've been going away from the Jedi for a while now, and when we get them back, obviously in a big way with the Ahsoka this summer, that's going to be amazing.
But it's exciting to see Verdesta Rowe as an adult, right? Because we've only gotten her as a teenager in all of the High Republic novels, so we get to see like what her final form is, right? Like it's going to be great.
Yeah, light whip alert! You might get a purple light whip.
Yeah, get ready for that. And no more purple hair. I guess she's just discarded the
she's graduated
hair.
To post hair, like
Certain
people they evolve and they shed their locks for a higher purpose.
There you go.
Which is to wear hats.
I do wonder if she's going to be connected to this. Is she hunting the dark side users in the galaxy? Whoever the rising Sith may be.
She's going to be the character that no one believes, but she knows that something bad is happening.
Something bad is happening. Yeah, because she's connected to the dark side. She obviously can feel it at its ebbs and flows, right? It's like, this darkness is coming. That's fascinating. are we getting a Sith Bith?
Oh yeah, let's go. I'm full Sith Bith,
We got it.
man.
Are we all
Sith Bith.
sitting there?
Come on.
Because that's the purpose it's got to do.
Fingers crossed, just like, all right. If we're doing this, we're gonna go timeline accurate here.
Because
I think you have to. I think
they have to tell the story of the Sith, like what is going on with
Yes.
the Sith, right? And they should tell several stories about the Sith. Personally, like I want Darth Bane, man. I want it. Like you kind of need him. At some point.
Like where did Bane and Zana and all that stuff end up?
Yeah.
Like that sort of like lingers into this story a little bit, and but again, that's EU, right? Like that stuff's
Legends,
not canonized.
technically. But
Legends,
I would
okay, yeah.
I would be satisfied if they were just like, okay, that's no longer Legends, that's canon. I mean, but it seems like that would be a missed opportunity. They might as well just shoot a live action Bane again.
Well, Bane is canon, but Bane is sort of this like
yep.
shogunate, looks like this like feudal warlord type character with all this armor on. He doesn't really follow the books. He looks a little different, I feel like.
Well, yeah, it's organic armor. I mean, it kind of in the books, it's like crustaceans. It's like he's got a living armor of symbiotes. Yeah, I mean, so if they want to tell the story, that's fine. If they want to canonize the Darth Bane trilogy, that's fine. And just almost that might be better, and then just pick it up after it. Just be like, listen, there is the rule of two. They'll refer back to what happened. Or just keep it vague. I know, but it's like I think Acolyte is going to pick up, and I think it's going to vector into Sith Bith and then Plagueis. So if people don't follow what we're talking about, we talk about the Sith Bith all the time. If you read the Plagueis novel, which is also Legends and not canon, but has been talked about, it is essentially it's about Darth Plagueis, but Darth Plagueis's master was Darth Tenebrous, who was a Bith.
Yep.
And he was obsessed with long life and lived like 250 years or something outrageous. And then Plagueis was obsessed with long life and he lived however. And then obviously Plagueis's apprentice was Darth Sidious, also known as Sheev Palpatine. So the Sith Bith, I think that, that timing, if it's 200 years before the Battle of Yavin, actually adds up.
I mean, but again, a Bith doesn't really like emote as well as we'd want a character like that to emote, given that we're covering such an important piece of lore. No, I'm just saying that I would love it. Personally, I would love it, but I'm just saying like it would be fun to get an actor, in there to do that work, to sort of explore what it means for the Sith to, a resurgence to occur. But like, again, we're weird canon weirdos who want Tenebrous. Like, I just can't imagine that's like commercially viable for so many
I'm going to pretend I didn't hear all that naysaying. All right. I also watched an interview with Andy Serkis and fell in love with him for the 20 millionth time. And he says he's going to every celebration after this. He came out and started cheering One Way Out, like as soon as he hit the stage, and like the place went bonkers. Like Andy Serkis is the greatest. And I was like, let's give him another one. He's got 2 roles. Let's give him another one. Put him in the Sith Bith mask and just watch magic happen.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
All right. Let me jump in. A couple things. I agree. The way Bith look, maybe not, the most cinematic.
Like a giant butt on a torso.
But if you look,
I've never seen machinery inside the prosthetic yet. That's why I sort of say I don't know if I've seen the emotes coming out of like the.
I don't know either. But look at the Wikipedia. Look at the Wikipedia canon picture of Darth Tenebrous. That's the other thing is Tenebrous is canon. He is mentioned in the Rise of Skywalker Visual Dictionary and a couple of other places. So like he is canon as that timeline as we've talked about. Everything can be recanonized, of course, but I don't think they want to mess with that. I think he looks great. I think a big kind of way that they ask themselves questions about old canon is the old canon, does it conflict with anything we've set up previously in new canon? Is anything in the old canon confusing? Is anything in the old canon going to close storytelling pathways? Is anything in the old canon problematic? And I think when you look at the Sith Bith, none of those things apply, right? And so part of it is like,
he's got a face mask. You don't even have to like see his mouth move. Yeah,
they're going to make him look totally different. The other thing is like, remember Cad Bane from like, I always thought Cad Bane would never translate to live action.
And he was beautiful.
Never. I thought he looked great though in Book of Boba Fett. I was like,
he did too.
Yeah, he looks incredible. There's a little lip syncing stuff going on there. But it's just like he says a word, and it's just the way
Yeah.
the way the mouth moves. It's much like the Ugnaughts. It's just sort of the machinery underneath is sort of like not totally on time, essentially.
But they'll just change how he looks. You know what I mean? Like they'll figure out a way to up him. That's not canon.
We haven't rung this bell in a while, but so I'm going to do it now. Sooner or later, we need to get a main character non-human.
Yes.
You know, that needs to happen.
Yeah, we do.
And and I think this is a great opportunity. You know, they're going to do it eventually, and this is great. You know, I'd love to see Darth Tenebrous, and I'd love to see Darth Plagueis, the Munilist, who ultimately also ends up wearing a face mask too, because they keep damaging their bodies trying to extend their life in an ironic twist of fate. But yeah, that's going to be good. Also, actually,
I mean, let's be real. Like the most prominent bits in Star Wars. Are the Jizz Whalers in the campaign.
That is correct.
Figuring Dan and the modal nodes.
Yeah, it's very dark in here, but I do
exactly what I'm talking
I do
about.
have Figuring Dan behind me, and it is too dark to see.
I'm just saying, it's just other than them, it's now going to be like a Sith Lord.
Yeah, I mean,
okay, all right. I'm just double checking with you guys.
It might be. I will say
smooth jazz band, adult contemporary music, and then Sith Lord,
and then I will say the 26th Legion of the Sith Eternal were called Tenebrous Legion.
All right.
And that's canon. That's from Rise of Skywalker.
I do, yeah. So again, we need these stories of what the dark side's cooking alongside, you know, leaning into the fall of the Jedi and all that stuff. So, I need them personally, because they're so fun that, you know, it's going to be so great to see that. So, I want to see some dark side POVs and what are they going through and why are they there, and and I want to see some space magic and lore.
I do wonder if this is sort of amplifying the themes in the High Republic in this show, given that there's such a close connection and tie to the High Republic. I do wonder if they're trying to showcase, like, you know, what the Jedi would be afraid of, what they'd be fearful of, what would destroy their sort of confident demeanor. You know, like what would that be? And like, let's go a little further, you know, than the Nile. Let's do like the Sith, and let's see how the Sith can be terrifying and how they can operate in the shadows. And when Jedi do come across them, they're almost like petrified with fear. Like, it's interesting that there's almost like a physical petrification happening in the High Republic books, but maybe I almost want to see just like horror, tension, and sort of like storytelling. Like, I want to see that actually dramatized. Like, that would be far more interesting to me. And then, do we get a leveler in this thing? Like, I don't know. Is the leveler like one of the major sort of set piece things that keeps happening?
Guys, so my both brain cells just collided in my head. And I remembered something from phase 1. All right, remember when they go to that planet that was also Snoke was on for a while? It was that like biodome planet. Do you remember what was there? There was a bunch of Sith artifacts that were controlling the Drengir.
Oh, right.
And I also believe the Sith may have been the ones that finally stopped the leveler.
I want to say that place is called the Amaxine
Station.
Well
ding, ding, ding.
Well,
chicken dinner for Grant. Thank you so much. It was a big one. That was what Claudia Gray was like, keep your eye on that place.
Commented on one of our posts telling us, like, don't forget this place.
I promise listeners we do no research.
We do research, but like, come on.
We do. Ben did quite a bit. He's running the show.
Gosh, man. I'm trying, but how do you do 25,000 years of like Jedi history for every show?
I did not know we'd get into like the Amaxine Station.
That's my favorite thing about talking to you guys, is because like we're trying to cover all of it, and all this stuff connects, and I love it. That's my favorite thing. It's like we can give context to everything we're talking about. But that's the goal.
Ben, I think you were saying, so I think you remember from that, you were saying that the Sith were the ones who finally stopped the leveler.
All right, so I stretched there. They definitely were the ones that stopped the Drengir. But like, what a cool twist of fate if, I mean, they at least stopped the Drengir. So even though they think, at last we left Avar Kriss, she stopped the Drengir too, but whatever, I digress. Actually, she restopped the Drengir, right? So they were originally controlled by the Sith. So what I'm saying is, we don't know anything about the relationship between the Nihil and the Sith, but that could be a really interesting relationship.
Yeah. There's
Yeah, there
Maybe.
definitely is. So, that could be, it could be an antagonistic, like it would be funny if or it would be fun if, the Nihil keep destroying the Jedi and they keep like just smacking them around. And, but then the Sith are like, we know how to take care of you. And they're the ones that ultimately bring balance because they take care of the, the complete nihilistic tendencies of this terrorist organization.
Yeah.
My last tidbit to say on the show is that, like, I have to imagine there's a predicament in which a character then enters an apprenticeship or becomes the acolyte of a sort of like dark side, right? Like someone who's a Sith possibly, or someone who's just high up on the dark side. And I got to imagine they're the eponymous acolyte character, of the show. And then I have to think that Vernestra Rowe is like hunting her master or whoever the acolyte's master is. You know what I mean? Like, I have to imagine there's a Jedi hunter in there too. And like, it could be a very fascinating, fun ride.
Right.
And like,
right. Are they an infiltrator? Is it Vern? I feel like oh no, it wasn't Vern. It was a different Jedi that I'm sorry. I just don't have all the like High Republic names in my head right now, but like they go undercover, with a Nihil. It's like, do they go undercover with the Sith? Are there rival factions within the Sith? So there's like a Sith army that's building that aren't following the rule of two, but there are also, Sith Bith and like whoever Sith Bith's master was, like the, rule of two following Sith that ultimately smack the other ones down. Like what's going on there? I'd love that sort of political interplay. I'm
very
interested. Let's go.
I just do wonder if the acolyte is basically the acolyte of a dark sorcerer, and like is that the storyline essentially? And is the dark sorcerer is it Darth Tenebrous, and is he like wordless sort of like haunting figure that's sort of like strolling around? There's maybe we humanize that character and we see that they're a dark sider for a reason, that there's maybe heartbroken or something, and the acolyte, like I would love to just humanize the dark side a little bit. Like that would be fun. Not everyone's a Palpatine. A lot of them are Darth Vaders. You know what I mean? Like, and I just want to see that stuff.
That's explored. The thing. It's like I feel like that's the storylines, right? No one, unless you're Palpatine, it feels like no one starts out that evil, right? Yeah. Like it's the old saying.
Well, like, Reva, Reva was light side. Like that's a great story. Yeah, she's more probably in line with what they are.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? Like that's the storyline of the fall of a Sith. Is like you don't start out seeking, power and whatever. It's like you said, Grant. It's Vader, right? Vader did this out of love and ended up, wanting just to have ultimate power to save the ones he loved, right? Yeah, that's the storyline.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome. And then finally, let's talk about the Skeleton Crew leaked trailer. I actually have the text right here. Do you want me to just read the trailer breakdown? Or is that too much text?
Yeah, again, spoiler wall. This is going to be the trailer that was shown at
Okay, so this is the breakdown description. So, trailer that opens with kids living on an unknown forested world. They go to school, living their lives riding speeder bikes, but longing for adventure, and they find it when they go exploring in the woods one night. Their parents return home to a vision of Star Wars suburbia, unlike anything we've seen in the franchise before, and find that their kids have gone missing. Those kids, our main group, 2 young girls, one wearing a Star Trek TNG-style head visor, a young boy, and a small alien that looks very much like he's a young Ortolan, which is the guy from like the Max Rebo's. It's Max Rebo.
Yeah, Max Rebo.
Like, blue guy. One of the blue pudgy allies, popularized by Max Rebo in Return of the Jedi. Sorry, I could have just read that. Appear to have found their way aboard a mercenary starship. There are shots of them encountering weird creatures, holograms of their parents back home begging for them to return, and the kids being menaced by pirates, including, it seems, the Nikto pirate, formerly of Gorian Shard's crew in The Mandalorian.
It's Vane,
his name's Vane.
Right?
Yeah.
Vane.
Thank you, Grant. Further tying the series timeline into the post-Return of the Jedi era. The kids find themselves on the run from blaster fire in what looks like a pirate base and flying away on their new ship before the trailer concludes with them locked up in a prison cell carved out of a cave. A hooded figure approaches, floating the key to their freedom in front of the kids with a whimsical display of the Force. "He's a Jedi!" one of the kids exclaims as the figure lowers their hood to reveal that it's Jude Law's mysterious character.
Yeah.
Booyah.
There you go. Yeah.
Very cool. But is there something about him like hovering keys or something?
That's what he
like
said.
that?
Whimsically, in a whimsical use of the Force, floating the key to their freedom in front of the kids.
Using the
Well,
Force.
I
Using the Force.
mean, yes.
Whimsically.
There are keys floating to them, which could be a display of the Force, or could be other things. We have seen someone falsify using the Force before in a recent television series in Star Wars.
All right.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
Saying. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
But I mean, nonetheless, if the trailer hangs on the idea of, hey, is this guy Force sensitive? I mean, that seems to be like a major plot, a major sort of like idea in the film, like in the show.
I wonder if it's a misdirect, not misdirect for necessarily what's going on, but I wonder if I wonder if he's a similar character to Kumail's character in Obi-Wan, and that they believe he's a Force user, and he doesn't want to admit to them that he's not, right?
He's the scallywag that just keeps the dream alive.
Yeah, he doesn't want to break their hearts, basically.
Like, nah,
yeah,
I'm actually not a Jedi. Sorry. I don't know. I would hate that because we kind of get a lot of that. We get a lot of tricksters in Star Wars, and I'm like, is Star Wars the place for tricksters? Like, I don't know. Like,
I can't.
I don't know. Like, I haven't seen a good trickster yet in Star Wars.
Law. I don't buy Jude Law as a Jedi. I just don't. He's
heresy.
See, I would love a pirate who uses the Force.
That's the thing.
Like Peter Pan.
Right?
This sounds like Amblin.
It's
Peter
very
Pan,
Amblin-like.
like Peter Pan meets Goonies.
The word
basically.
Amblin was used no less than 300 times over the course.
Yeah, it is very much. Even though they keep doubling down on this is a show with kids, not a show for kids. That they
you heard that? Because I heard Kathy being like, this is an entrance point for kids into the Star Wars.
Yeah,
galaxy.
I think they're trying to say it's not a kids show. Basically, but
right.
Kids could watch it. But I think it's probably going to be on the lighter side, which is also true of like The Mandalorian in a lot of ways. Like The Mandalorian is not uber violent.
Well, I mean, the Stranger Things is like a kids show, but it's uber
But
violent.
as I say, by like season 4, it's pretty much an R-rated film.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm saying they have a lot of bandwidth
Totally.
with Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I would just love Jude Law just being a sort of a scoundrel-esque character
Who's
who
Force
possibly
sensitive.
can use the Force.
I love that.
And
that'd be great.
But just like, sort of like, I have to imagine just does really fun, cool stuff with it instead of, but like might be morally sort of complicated. I don't know. Like it might be more morally complicated in the ways that he uses the Force. Like I don't know.
I'm still
like
wondering
he might do
if
things
he
that
is part of the pirates.
Right.
Part, which is kind of thing I've been floating, and this is like a bridge too far for him. It's like, wait, we're kidnapping kids now? Like maybe that's the moment that he breaks away from them.
I've heard rumors this might go beyond the galaxy too. Like they're headed out of the galaxy.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you had mentioned Outbound Flight before. I don't know if there's anything there, but if this is some sort of play on that. But yeah.
You know what's really interesting about that is just a really wild speculation is they talk about suburbia and they talk about this area that the kids are exploring, and what if they're on like a generational ship?
Yeah.
Right. And so they're not actually on a planet, but they're on a ship with a bio. Like, yeah.
What if he stole a Jedi ship or something?
Yeah.
Could be.
The one with Hu Yang on it.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about.
We didn't talk about David Tennant reprising.
Yeah,
his
but
role.
he was his role in the Ahsoka trailer.
Yeah.
Which I didn't expect him there. I kind of hoped he would be in Skeleton Crew, but yeah. Okay.
Still could be.
Skeleton Crew could be fun if it is the ship. The ship actually has a name. The ship that they go on to Illiman with Hu Yang to get the crystals.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if Jude Law stole that after the Empire took over, and he was like, "I'm taking the ship. Like, this droid can hang out, whatever." And then when these kids get trapped aboard or something like that, it's like let's go get crystals and make lightsabers and have like the Star Wars adventure. But
okay, I've got the name of the ship is the Crucible.
Oh, you got it right before I got it.
Bang.
Well done.
And it's a beautiful ship. It's like a precursor to the Corvette that Baylan Tilly's uses. Anyways, it's gorgeous. But yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And this one's coming, fact. Skeleton Crew is coming end of this year, so it's probably going to be the December slot that Book of Boba Fett took over last year. right?
Okay.
Was that would be my guess. End of, because you got Ahsoka in August, right? So,
It would make sense. It would be like Christmas time.
Christmas, yeah.
People are there. That's the feature time and time to gather with your family, your kith and kin, and watch some Star Wars.
Yeah.
Very excited.
I'm excited.
Yeah. All right. Well, you know what? Holy cow! Any last thoughts about this? So all right. I just wanted to also say a couple more things that Kathy said that I was like, okay. One, she was asked directly about Lando. So she was asked about Rogue Squadron. Yeah, we already mentioned that. She said that's still very much a thing. We don't know how it's going to be.
Yep.
She was asked directly about Kevin Feige. She said that was never a thing. That was never announced by Lucasfilm. It was just fan speculation, and that and Feige shooting his mouth off. And then, but she was asked about Donald Glover's recent tweets about this still being in play, and she said yes, it is very much. It's still around, and she said, and Donald Glover is very excited about it, laughing as she said it.
Yeah,
just being like. Yeah. It sounds like he might be pushing some Lucasfilm boundaries a little bit. He's just like, and like he even I saw a tweet. He's like, I wish I was there with you. Like he wants an announcement. He wants to be a part of this again.
That's exciting.
Yeah, very exciting for me.
Also asked about Rian Johnson, and said that basically like it's still a thing. We're talking a lot. Yeah. He is super busy. Don't expect anything soon, but definitely he still wants to do something in the galaxy. Taika Waititi, she was asked about too. She said he's actively writing. He's writing it on his own. He doesn't have anyone else working on the script. So, kind of something like that. So yeah. It's funny. I really thought we'd get a Taika. Yeah. But
yeah, she's playing it.
You got to excavate that meaning, It takes a
and honestly, the chances of all three movies they announced all coming out is 7-1.
Yeah. Over under on 2 of the 3.
Yeah.
Well, one is for sure going to go into principal photography, and that's the Dave Filoni one, because I feel like they've talked about this for so long. It sounds like the apex to their plans. And
Kathy also said the New Jedi Order film there have been meetings about it for 2 years. For 2 years,
the fact that they actually brought Daisy Ridley out to me says like it's gonna happen.
They're getting
James Mangold is the one that I don't know. Like remember, like I feel like fool me once, shame on me.
Yeah.
Shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Like we already got a James Mangold. Boba Fett movie. Like we talked about that walking into Solo.
Right.
I think the Acolyte has to. Yeah. I think a lot hinges off the Acolyte because it's gonna be the first show where they showcase a lot of Jedi and sort of like. However you do that is going to be compared to how George did it, and then just like tonally and just how those characters work and how they function, and then if that works incredibly well, I think Dawn of the Jedi and I think the New Jedi Order will work because it's going to be like the ensemble will be fully Jedi.
Yeah. I think
I imagine close to full Jedi ensemble.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I think New Jedi Order is pretty safe because it's mostly just like, hey, it's Rey again. I think the Dawn of Jedi is the one that's most precarious, and I think you're right. Acolyte has a lot because that's also the first live action show that's going to deal with a timeline that that people have not seen on any screens before, right? Like every show that's come out so far takes place in some era that we're at least somewhat familiar with, and this is like
it's new territory.
150 years before the thing you've ever seen. Yeah. So. We'll see if it does really well. I think you're right.
I mean, the other thing to keep in mind is that it's a little apples to oranges with these live action series and feature films because you're talking like 5 or 6x the budget to produce the films, so the production value will raise and it'll obviously look better. I mean, I kind of wish live action and feature films could meet in the middle a little bit on their production value. Or actually just all go towards features, but it is what it is. Like Keller and Beck looked pretty good, but like Coruscant looked, I don't know, not quite as good.
I'm just hoping the Disney
Attack of the Clones Coruscant.
And you're also dealing with risk though, higher risk with the movies too. Like you can have a series that doesn't hit and it doesn't have an impact. I mean, 2 movie kind of somewhat flubs from Star Wars in a row, and they put a pause on the movies. It's going to last
a decade.
6 years. almost a decade. Yeah, that really like so they really want to make sure.
I mean, they still
these
made $1
are gonna
billion
work.
on Rise of Skywalker, right? It's like, I mean, but they're like, but it was only
Yeah,
half
that was
as,
last.
yeah, but they made $2 billion on Force Awakens, and you're like, okay, but like that's a pretty high bar, man.
I think they also got scared by the reviews. I think that really
Well, they should have
freaked
been
them
scared
out.
by the reviews. They should have been scared before they. Okay.
They should not have been surprised by those reviews. Anyway, moving on.
No, yeah, and then
So did they say if they're doing Dawn of the Jedi or a New Jedi Order first? Like which one?
I didn't
I haven't
hear.
heard anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
The internet seems to be sure that the New Jedi Order is the 2025 movie. I don't know where that's coming from. I don't buy that.
Can they
personally.
even get a movie together by 20? I thought it was already pushed. I thought Rogue Squadron was going to be 2025. So they were like, it's obviously kicked to 2026. But there is a production schedule for Avatar that's sort of in between all of these Star Wars films. So
Yep.
I don't know.
That's the issue, right? We're not dealing with just Star Wars. We're dealing with Star Wars, Marvel, Avatar, and Disney has basically. I think it's like you either get this 2025 or it's 2027.
Yeah,
that's what Disney is saying to them, and so I don't think they want an 8-year gap between movies.
I will say,
So.
I mean, based on what I heard today, New Jedi Order is much closer, is much further down the pipe. That they have a director, and it sounds like they've been talking about this for a long time. They have their lead actor, and then but like the stuff they were talking about, Mangold's project. So Kathy's been working with him on the Indiana Jones movie, so they've been just in the room together. And she said they did have a formal discussion about it, and they hashed it out with Filoni in the room, which I thought was cool to have their lore nerd there. And then that's the highest lore nerd there is, even.
Right.
I would even put him above Hidalgo at this point. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so that sounded like a discussion happened, but like there's no script. But there could be the first workings of a script going for the other movie.
Yeah,
it would be fun for the shows to sort of the Disney Plus shows to sort of taper off, and the theatrical experience to return.
Yeah,
that to me would be incredible. And then if they go New Jedi, I think it would be smart to go New Jedi Order first. Just given that, like, you'll then have all these series that could branch off from that with and have all the backing of the sequel trilogy and all the work that's been done there, and sort of like character development that's been done there, and then that could then branch off into series. And I would love to see those characters also, like, to get side stories, to get all that stuff branching out of that. The New Republic, or not the New Republic, whatever that the Free Republic or whatever is established at that.
I love Free Republic.
I don't know what it's called at that point.
That's the thing. I just can't wait to have Star Wars stories that I don't know what comes after.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to like go further in the timeline. Yeah,
even in Dawn of the Jedi, like, or I think it's called Dawn of the Jedi. And there's all that time. It's like I'm still gonna be thinking about the text, and I'm like, oh, look, it connects to the thing, and like the synergy and all that. Like, just give me something new where I don't know where it's at all.
Yep, literally anything could happen. Literally anything could happen. My other question,
Jedi with
go for it. No, go for it.
Within the new Jedi Order,
the
Jedi within the New Jedi Order, those could be the threats, like, right?
Yeah,
the Jedi themselves.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Like, we don't know like where they're going with it.
Yeah.
Bring it back to like ordering of this stuff. The other question I have though is if we get the Dave Filoni movie coming out, I guess that would be 2027, because my guess is they're still doing the 2 years between Star Wars movies, mostly because of the Avatar slots. That means we need 4 years of mandoverse shows.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. I guess you could take a year off, right? You could end 2026 and just say in next year coming this, but like that's a lot of series that you got to like pull this out. We're introducing Thrawn like in, I don't know, in 5 months, 4 months.
Yeah. Right. And then you've got to fill 5 more years. It's like, I mean, so they've got
pulling taffy at this
New
point?
Jedi Order series, right? We've got Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, and now Skeleton-Crew. And then you could also throw in, there might be a Rogue Squadron.
Yeah.
Or,
could be good. They might I wouldn't be surprised if they rename
right.
Rogue Squadron.
And I mean, we're getting pretty much 2 series a year. We're almost getting 3 plus animated series.
Yeah.
And also there's going to be a season 2 of Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to get into.
That's right.
Because I don't have anything positive to say about that. Filoni
It's dark.
confirmed all
It's
of
dark.
my things. He's like, he didn't even want to do it. He was like a thing, and they kind of pushed him into doing a series, and then ultimately he's like, he wrote it because he just wanted to hang out with his friends. Listen, I love Dave Filoni. In one of his interviews, like, he started crying. And he goes, asked a question, ignored it, and then like tearfully was like, you don't know how much this means to you. And he was completely authentic. He's a real deal. He is a great heir to Lucas.
Incredible.
I love the guy, but like the way he handled that, I'm like, no, that is like not reverent.
He's the heir.
Yeah.
He's
It
the heir.
showed-
Yes.
Stop retconning very
the
good
thing.
Star Wars material like that Ahsoka book. Like, please
I know.
stop that.
That's the thing. The Mandoverse shows the best of Dave Filoni, and the Tales of the Jedi showed the worst of Dave Filoni. And that's just something to keep in mind. Like, just like Lucas had his really great qualities and some really bad qualities. So does every creator.
You guys don't think? I thought Tales of the Jedi was incredible.
No, a lot of people loved it.
Series of animated.
Yeah, I mean,
television.
listen, he did, but like he essentially threw it together to hang out with the
It
voice
was like
actors.
It's like, here's Count Dooku's POV.
I
was like,
really,
oh,
I
okay.
did
Like,
very
all
much
right,
enjoy the
fantastic.
Count
Is this-
Dooku storyline.
Is this really Tales of the Jedi? Because like I read the comics back in the day, the Dark Horse comics, and that was like golden age of the Sith. It was like the Jedi Sith War. It was like Tales of the Jedi meant like, hey, let's cover those bases of history where it's like it's cataclysmic
If
events.
we were
occur.
if that whole series was just the Count Dooku series, I'd be like, loved it. It was great. It was the Ahsoka one that really left a bad taste in my mouth, and it just it rang of like I love Ben's like, we're not going to get into it. We're getting into it.
Now here we are. Yeah.
It rang of ego to me, of just like, this is my toys. I don't care that I gave you permission or you played with it. I'm going to do whatever I want, even though I could have told a completely different story that didn't trample over your story. I'm still going to do it because whatever. Like,
Because
it
I
just
can.
sucked anyway. But
Yeah.
whatever. I still
And
love
we'll-
him,
yeah.
and I love the way he does. I love his Ahsoka stuff in live action and cartoons. So it's not like I dislike him. I just dislike.
Wait,
that
what
action.
was bad? I'm saying what was
They
bad about it,
retconned
though?
all of what E.K. Johnston did in the Ahsoka novel, and also really went over some queer representation in Star Wars that really sucked.
that's
Just to
correct.
be blunt
Yeah,
about
I mean,
it.
Oh, that's right. In the opening, couple
Yeah.
and it's
episodes,
called Tales, so you can
second
say like,
episode.
well, it's sort of a parallel
Yeah.
telling. But like in that parallel telling, they left out all the nuance that made that novel and that story great. That one grinded my gears.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love the Count
will-
Dooku
I
side.
would say that to Filoni's face. I'm not, it's.
Yeah.
I really believe strongly in that.
Yeah.
That was a bummer. And I hope he doesn't do that. But again, he was like, oh, I thought I'd bring in some Dooku, and then yes, those Dooku stories were amazing. In Tales.
I like the
But,
Dooku stuff
I
quite a bit.
wish he would do what you were talking about, Grant, like where he goes to some weird random time period and tells these beautiful vignettes with people, But yeah, it sounded like he brought in characters just
He
because
could
he
do
wanted,
it too, right?
yeah, Matt Lanter there,
yeah.
and all those and Ashley Eckstein and like those voice actors to just hang out with him again.
It's
like,
also
man.
boring for him to keep exploring the same era with the same characters. Like, just like you said, go
Yes.
to some other era and just tell another tale of a Jedi. Maybe that's what season 2
Well,
is.
it's like if someone's going to establish that history, it should be Filoni.
Yeah,
right? Like, I feel
absolutely.
like I trust
do.
the guy, and Filoni
Me
we
too.
trust. And I feel like if he wants to go back and actually cover all the strange legend stuff, but like canonize it in a brilliant way, sort of create that simplified architecture but borrows those elements from legends and sort of, but like makes them so much
Right.
better. I would love that.
One of the things that Dave said about this that I caught was that he's using it as an opportunity to train up his people to get more responsibility and make their own content.
That's
so it's
cool.
like he's not going to like have a lot of direct things. And so, I mean, maybe that's what happened with the first Tales Jedi, and they were just like, can I just do this? And like, I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
why that happened, but like, but I do believe in that too. It's like you need to train up your people. Like a Jedi passes on what he knows,
And it seems like we're seeing that in Bad Batch, right? Quite well. Like I don't think
Bad Batch is amazing.
It's amazing, and I don't think he has a ton to do with it, to be honest. And not in a bad way. I think he's just he's training people around him. Yeah.
I can't imagine what his life is like.
No.
He's just live action directing.
I think
as
he's
much as
completely
possible
made the
right now.
transition into live action. Yeah.
Yeah, Kathleen talked about that as well. It's like he's been on this path for 10 years, and they've been grooming him to be a live-action feature film director.
Boy, does that Ahsoka episode of season 2 of Mando look beautiful! Like that episode that he directed in season 2 is so good.
Stunning.
So I'm excited to see his, and the Ahsoka trailer looks just amazing.
Yeah.
The Ahsoka
Yeah.
trailer, brilliant. I was amazed.
I guess
honestly.
the other thing to mention is like we're recording this Saturday night. Today Saturday? What's today? Today's Saturday.
If we keep recording, it's much longer. It's going to be Sunday. But yes,
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah. So there is still another 2.5 days or 1.5 days of stuff. So we'll cover anything else. I guess the only thing that's probably going to happen tomorrow is they're probably going to officially announce Bad Batch season 3, but we can talk about that during our next regular episode.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, we can cover it now. We can pretend it happened.
Just be like, wow, that's going to be great, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We kind of talked about it at length in our last episode.
It's true.
We did. We had just check out our Bad Batch episode.
Yeah, so much fun.
Which was episode 286. And we went on at length about what, obviously, the next season will be because there was a lot of cliffhangers going on there.
Yeah.
A season 3 would be super. But a really fun Star Wars celebration, right? Like lots going on.
I did not expect this. Does that make sense? Like I had some expectations. None of them happened. And what they gave me was so much more and better than I ever could have imagined.
Yeah.
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 I do love that there's so much in production.
Yes.
So much is happening. And like, it's just, there's a healthy dose of Star Wars right now and life is good. And and brilliant creators are at work. And I love the teams that they've hired.
Yeah. So much so that like we need to have our own administrative meeting to even figure out how to cover everything. It's like we didn't talk about comics or novels.
Like, how many books do we have to read next month?
Yeah, like 3.
Yeah.
We have like 3 novels to read. Meanwhile, Mig Dowell is out there. She's like, I just read the whole Aftermath trilogy again. And you're like, how did you read? She's read like 20 Star Wars.
It's amazing
this month.
Yeah. Good for her.
Good for her. We got a bunch of those to read and a bunch of comics to read, which I can't wait. Next time we talk, which I don't know, it'll be in a few days. It'll be Mando episode 7, and then the Blade in its entirety of its 4-issue arc.
Yeah.
And then after that, who knows?
Yeah, but we will
Mando and something else.
Mando and we'll probably have the Mando. I'm guessing the Mando season finale will probably be its own episode, and then we're going to dive into a lot of other content.
Yeah,
but we'll give you the path that we're going to take ahead of time.
Yeah, that's
so you
pretty
can read
much
along.
it.
Yeah,
Mando finale, which will be huge, and then I think the week after that we are going to cover the book about Jedi Battle
Survivor.
Scars.
Yeah,
so
Battle
we'll read
Scars.
Battle Scars, and
right.
We will have hopefully a little gameplay under our belts for Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, we talked about maybe doing some twitching.
We might even Twitch.
I might Twitch. You guys can follow me Twitch.
I know. We might actually get the stream on Twitch too, if I can ever find the time and the brain cells.
Yeah. Also take 5 star systems on any podcast player.
Yeah.
Yes. 5 star systems. Yes. Click all the 5 galaxies on your rating system for us because we love the exposure.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah. For all our new people that have started listening to us and watching us on YouTube.
Yeah, watching us. The numbers have jumped up in YouTube, so welcome everyone. And it's
glad they got the coordinates.
You got the coordinates.
We sent them out there. We transmitted, and they got the coordinates.
Follow us so you can catch us live and tune in. We're a little random. We're doing our best. We at least try to get something produced every Sunday. That doesn't always work.
Yeah.
And obviously we're trying to get as close to the Mandalorian releases as we can.
Yeah.
But
follow along. Like Ben said, if you follow, you get an email every time we're on, just saying, hey, they're live. And we don't. When we're live, we're actually live, and we're usually recording. And I will generally be watching the comments, so we will make you part of the show if you want to be.
Yeah, that's what this show is. This show is watching Star Wars and just having friends to talk to about some hardcore Star Wars stuff, man. Just like really just talking about it.
We are rebranding to Skeleton-Crew. That'll be our new I'm just joking.
Right on, man.
Core World
right
News.
On. Core World News for life. It's all the news and in the core and beyond. Y'all are great. Thank you very much for listening to us. We really appreciate it. So much fun. Hope you had a great Star Wars celebration, and we will talk to you next week. May the Force be with you.
This is Grex Kondak signing off. For the latest breaking news, follow @CoreWorldNews on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you and good night.
Remember, the Force will be with you.